Good afternoon. Welcome to our season finale of InFocus. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and joining me to guest host the lovely, ever lovely, I don't know how you want to say it, Brittany Hobson. We're going to go out with a bang today. We're leaving you this season on a happy note. We are putting weddings in focus. If you are a bride-to-be, the show is for you. So get your notepad out and get ready for some wedding inspo, marrying culture and tradition into our weddings.
Hey, thanks. So we're going to start today off with a story here. A couple in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan didn't let a global pandemic stop them from getting married. In fact, they overcame quite a few hurdles and a trip to the hospital to become Mr. and Mrs. Gray. Priscilla Wolf has the story.
Michael Gray and Tara Gray were set to get married July 25th. But when the pandemic hit, those wedding plans went up in the air.
We were doing a lot of planning and everything like that. So we were getting excited and everything, and people were going to buy their tickets and whatnot. And yeah, it was heartbreaking that, we planned for our big day and it wasn't going to happen.
So they decided to get married sooner rather than later and move the big day up by 2 months to May 20th.
We were thinking, what's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen. So you know what? Let's just do this now.
Turns out getting married during a pandemic would take a lot of work. Even getting the go-ahead to hold a social distance wedding turned out to be complicated.
Because we never know what's going to happen. It's so amazing, because when we tried to get our license, we could not get a license because everywhere was closed, and there was only this one guy in Saskatoon. Actually, he only had one left.
Michael's family lives all over the world. Since they couldn't fly to Saskatchewan, they watched the ceremony safely online. Family and friends that could make it in person found ways to celebrate the big day while staying safe.
We had 10 people at all times in the church, and then we just told everybody to deck your vehicles up. And after we got out of our ceremony, that we would go on a parade all around the city to make our way up to the casino.
It was a beautiful wedding made possible by family, friends, and the community.
We were told at one time there was 245 people on our group. Yeah. We had a wedding group on Facebook. It was a live watch party. And that's where we were holding it. But then other people were going live on their Facebook.
But the adventure wasn't over yet. After the ceremony and car parade, Tara fell and had to be taken to the ER in her wedding dress.
So we were going to take off after our pictures. She was just moving a chair just down, not even 2 steps. And she hit the chair on the step, and I was standing there, and she just went flying. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? We got to get you to the hospital.
They spent the honeymoon in the ER. Luckily, the bride didn't break her foot, but it's swollen and badly sprained. Once Mr. and Mrs. Gray can travel again, they plan to have a real honeymoon, and they already have a destination picked.
Totally Jamaica. I'm so ready to go back to Jamaica.
Yeah, Jamaica in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because they would love to put something on there.
Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
That is a bride who is not going to take a loss to COVID at all. Well, some brides, of course, are known for planning down to the most minute detail and troubleshooting a million scenarios and what-ifs. But none could have predicted a global pandemic and its effects on wedding plans. Jessie Joyner was one of the brides left in the lurch, but as she tells us, COVID forced her to make some changes that, turns out, made her wedding even more memorable. Thanks for joining us, Jessie.
Hi.
Hi. So congratulations. You're a new bride. Your wedding was in November. It was supposed to be in June, but of course, COVID. Take us through what changed in terms of the planning from what you planned to have in June to what you ended up having in November.
For sure. So we had planned a huge party. There's deaths in our family, and it was nice to have something that was exciting and a celebration, really a gift for our families. Yeah. So we had planned to feed about 400 people. And so when COVID came, obviously that wasn't going to happen. So we had kind of pared it way down to about 25 people and have a little feast after. And then the week before our wedding on that Tuesday, Alberta had even harsher restrictions, and so we were down to 10 people. So it was a much different wedding than we had originally planned, for sure.
Way smaller.
Oh yeah, way smaller.
It wouldn't be wedding talk without talking about your dress and jewelries. Can you tell us about what you were wearing on that day?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually wearing my wedding earrings right now. So I got earrings and medallions and necklaces made for me, my husband, my parents, and our bridal party. And so they're made by Kita Luttrell. They're a disabled queer powwow regalia maker in Calgary, and they go by Kiwewin Beads on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, they did an amazing job. They took some of my Chapman's old beadwork designs, integrated those, just like did an amazing job at kind of looking at our family designs and making beautiful jewelry. And then our rings were actually from Sapling and Flint. And they're a twin sister operation out of Six Nations, and one of them's a silversmith.
Yes.
And she made incredible rings.
Flash
that
them.
look like
We want to see the hardware there.
Oh yeah, can you get into that?
Yes. We have them on later.
Yes, I spoke with them earlier this week, so we're going to be checking in with them later on.
Yes. So were you always, COVID or not, you were always planning on having, your culture tightly stitched into your wedding day?
Yeah, totally. And I think it was, it's a big celebration. It's a moment where you get to celebrate with a big community of people that love you. And it's as much for them, I think, as it is for you. Like it's a gift to them. And so my husband is Chinese. And so we had planned to do a tea ceremony as well. But obviously with COVID, you can't share drinks or anything like that. So we're going to save that for the reception when that comes later. But yeah, we wanted sort of that part of it as the ceremony. And then we also were blanketed as well. My parents got Nelda McIntyre, who's from Saskatoon, to make this beautiful star blanket quilt. And so that was, both families blanketed us at the end of our ceremony.
We're just watching here right now, and people can see like the incredible gown that you have for your wedding. We're actually going to be talking to your dress designer after we're done talking with you to get more on that whole process.
It's nice to hear that you were still able to incorporate some things into the wedding, and certainly, we're kind of 15 months or whatever into a pandemic, and a lot of brides are kind of going through this right now. Any advice for brides that are planning a wedding during this time?
For sure. I think it's just that ability to be flexible. I mean, we had things change up to 5 days before our wedding, right? I mean, a wedding's always stressful. Put a pandemic on top of that. Yeah. It's, just keep a level head and really trust the people around you, right? We had even though we could only have a small group of people witness the ceremony, it was nice to have our friends drive by outside and wish us well and just kind of see it from afar even. And so it's nice to sort of have the support of people around you too during this like weird and grim time.
Well, we're thankful that you could take the time to share your joy with us. It's nice to see a nice, happy, blushing bride. The marriage is obviously going well. So at the end of this all, you get to look forward to the reception where you can finally gather all your friends and your family and to really like pay that nod to your husband and your very separate cultures, but in a meaningful way. So, Jessie, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So Evan Ducharme is a Métis designer living in Vancouver on Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territory. He joins us now, and he is the one that actually designed the dress that we just saw.
Yes. I want to I want to know so much, and I want to see so many other of your creations here. Evan, so thanks for joining us. First of all, our audience just saw the dress that you did for Jessie when we were talking to her. Can you walk us through, what is it? I think a lot of us can't even imagine what it would be like to be the person that creates something that momentous on that momentous of a day. It's got to be nerve-wracking.
Definitely. Always such a generous. Especially during the pandemic, Jessie and I had to get
well, we're just having some technical problems here. Evan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you now. Sorry, I wanted to say, can you talk about your role in the big day of brides, and just what that means to you as you're doing something that's obviously so meaningful to them. We just had some audio problems before.
Yeah, I'm incredibly grateful to be brought on board for people's special day in this way and this incredibly intimate moment. Especially for someone like Jessie, we had to go about the process a different way about how to create the custom gown.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you could talk a little bit more about, I guess, the different process. I'm assuming that COVID has affected business and your process. Maybe if you could talk us through how did that work?
So we needed to establish from the beginning that certain kinds of styles weren't going to be possible. We needed to fit this dress social distantly. Jessie was in Alberta, I am in BC, and luckily she wanted something very unstructured, no corset. She wanted a shorter length for her gown. A jigging length is what we came up with.
I've never heard of that before.
Both being Métis, we really know the importance of having good foot clearance at your wedding party. You want to have a good jigging, you want to have good movement for all the jigging. And we were both very fortunate in the fact that Jessie didn't really want something that was going to take a lot of fittings. So that was really important at the beginning of this process.
And we're looking at it again right now. I mean, the detailed work in there is just stunning. I wanted to ask you, you talked a little bit about just the different process. Obviously now with COVID, you can't be doing, in-person fittings and whatnot. How has COVID affected you don't just do wedding dresses, you do, made to order custom designer, beautiful clothing. What effect has COVID had on that?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Sorry,
All right. Yeah,
I'm getting crossed with someone else's feed.
Oh, yeah.
Hear that question rather.
Yeah. So, how has COVID affected your business? You're not just doing weddings, wedding attire. You do custom order fashion design, right? So, what effect has COVID had on that business?
Like most businesses, things have slowed down, but in other respects, people are, taking this time to consider other options on how to get their looks for their special day, which, a custom isn't something that most people would think is within their realm of possibility. So just coming on board with me and having that conversation, we can get down to the brass tacks of budget, your inspiration, your timeline, and really demystify this process and make it a bit more accessible to folks.
I'm curious to know a little bit more about, I guess, what does the collaboration process look like with each bride?
It really differs. Some people walk into the custom experience knowing exactly what they want, and some others need a little bit more guidance. So that's where I come in. I can use my expertise and use my own skills in garment making to help assist them on that journey of getting to something that's going to be affirmative and comfortable and making them feel great on their day.
What's keeping you busy nowadays? I know when we had talked yesterday, I was pretty excited to hear what you got going on for menswear.
Well, it's not exactly menswear. I am working on some suits for a queer couple here in Vancouver.
Okay.
And they're luckily that this is something that we can do, within our own restrictions here in BC. One at a time, kind of person in the studio, all masked up, and yeah, like that, like something like that, like a suit would not be able to be done social distancing. Obviously, there's an immense amount of fittings and lots of detail that needs to go into a piece like that or a look like that. But also, I'm working on the relaunch of my online store, which has an offering that is a bit more day wear, ready to wear than the custom aspect of the business.
Great. And just where do you hope to see your career go in the future?
I'm really moving forward with a mode of sufficiency. This industry is so overriddled with brands that sell volume, that are really detrimental to the health of the planet, and to operate in a mode where I'm maintaining a sufficiency for myself and those around me. That is where I'd like to move in the future.
Well, we love your designs, Evan, and we're so thankful that you are bringing so much joy to brides and to sharing with us, our audience here at InFocus. Thank you. Best of luck to you in your future business endeavors. Stay healthy.
Thanks so much.
Well, we need to take a break, but we have lots more wedding fun, including cakes. We've got jewelry with cultural flair. Still ahead of the show.
If you've got something from your wedding you'd like to share, drop a comment on our live feed on the APTN National News Facebook page. Stay with us.
Join our conversation now. Like us on Facebook on our APTN News page. Follow or tweet us at APTN InFocus. And send your thoughts to infocus@aptn.ca.
Welcome back. The province of Ontario recently made changes to their Marriage Act. It now recognizes that traditional Indigenous weddings and allows members of Indigenous communities to perform these ceremonies. Jamie Pashagumskum spoke with an Indigenous wedding officiant on the changes to the act there and some newlyweds on their big day.
Despite COVID-19, it was everything they planned. An outside venue in a traditional palisade on Anne-Marie's home community of Niashing-Naming, Cape Croker. Sanford White says he and his wife come from traditional backgrounds.
The way we were raised, we felt that it would be important way for us to do the ceremony, and then we wanted to mix it with a little bit of modern style wedding.
Anne-Marie Prue White said they consulted elders on traditional Ojibwe weddings.
We did seek out two of our elders that are our traditional mentors, and we did speak about what those teachings look like through that old traditional protocols. We wanted to respect those Anishinaabe protocols.
Elaine Kiknosaway is a First Nation wedding officiant and says people still need to get a marriage license, but now community members can conduct weddings.
The changes in the Marriage Act will allow a person to solemnize a marriage in Ontario if they belong to the band, a First Nations Métis settlement, or Inuit community, but they've taken a little further and said organization. So organizations within communities can say, we identify this person.
Kignosaway says she likes to see ceremonies reflecting the couple's personalities and not just the same old, same old. Anne-Marie says they incorporated as much of the Anishinaabe language as they could, including the word gazagin for love.
In the English language, we say I love you or I love you, but in the Anishinaabe language, it means more than just I love you. It means like I share him with the world, or I'm sharing my love with him with the world. It means so much more than just I love you.
COVID protocols meant less people attending the wedding, but Anne-Marie says it all fell into place in the end.
People from my community just pulled together, and my cousins, and I couldn't have done it without them. But we actually saved money instead of having the huge gathering, so that was the bonus.
The couple say if COVID restrictions permit, they will renew their vows next year with a larger gathering. Jamie Pashagumskum, APTN National News, London, Ontario.
I had a chance to catch up with Elaine Kiknosaway, who we just saw in Jamie's story. Spoke with her earlier this week, where we talked about her work as an Indigenous officiant and how things have been going since Ontario started recognizing traditional wedding ceremonies. Here's that conversation. Hi, Elaine. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate you coming on the show to chat.
You're welcome.
So I want to just start, when we're talking about traditional, what does that mean in terms of traditional wedding ceremonies?
Some wedding ceremonies or traditional wedding ceremonies can incorporate the use of tobacco, sacred fire, water, strawberries, gifts, new moccasins, a blanket wrapping ceremony. So there's a variety of what they say traditional perspectives or within each of the different nations.
What kind of ceremonies do you perform? Do you have a certain kind, or is it, I guess, up to each couple?
It's really, like you said, it's up to each couple. But I'm Ontario wedding officiant, like legal. So I'm known under the eyes of Ontario as a reverend. But I'm one that can legally sign the papers to honor their wedding ceremony and legal marriages.
What do couples need to keep in mind when looking for someone to perform a traditional wedding ceremony?
I think, an openness, flexibility, really have that place of what is it that they want on their special day within each other's nations, if they identify as First Nations or Métis or Inuit or non-Indigenous, and what does that look like in their wedding day? Because it's a really special day of celebrating love and coming together in good ways, merging families together, and just that place of it becomes like a warrior of love. Like we're all trying to come together in a good way with each other with a good mind.
Now that Ontario recognizes traditional weddings, have you seen more couples requesting them? Have you seen people interested in them?
I've seen some interest. A lot of times when they reach out to me, it's because they want to do the legal ceremony. But I have done ceremonies, just like the display of ceremonies without the official paperwork. But you have to understand, like, if you have land on reserve, some bands will not accept a traditional wedding ceremony. They need the legal wedding license. So there's a bit of difference of really following the federal guidelines to the provincial guidelines and being informed.
Do you see people kind of doing, I guess, then a combination of both or incorporating both?
A lot of times, yeah, it has been an incorporation of both, with the fire, the going to their city hall, getting the legal paperwork, filing for a license, and then I follow through to make sure that I send in the license within 48 hours of my legal office.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elaine. That's unfortunately all the time that we have today, but I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us.
You're welcome. You take care, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Our next guest had the wedding that got me right in the feels, on the land, the bride and the groom feeding each other, traditional attire and ceremony, and to top it all off, a blood moon. Joining us now is Jill Sata from the Unescatine, I think I have that right, territory. It's near Williams Lake, British Columbia. Jill, thank you for joining us, Jill. Before we get to the incredible wedding that you had, I feel that our audience needs to know a little bit of backstory. You were not one of those girls that grew up with dreams of being a bride running through your head. You never thought you'd be planning a wedding. You had zero interest. What changed?
No, weddings just weren't something that I felt was something that I wanted to do. However, my husband's father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and we decided to get married to ensure that he could attend the wedding with us. So that was my change of heart.
So we've heard from a few different brides that have gotten married recently in the time of COVID, and that's kind of changed what their weddings look like. Can you talk about how did COVID change your plans, or did you have the wedding planned regardless of COVID?
It was prior. I was married in 2018, so it was way, way before COVID. So yeah, I was married before, and we had about 150 people attend.
Were you always planning the wedding that you had, or did it end up being something different than what you had originally thought? Like we've heard earlier, people plan these big, huge things, and then COVID or no COVID, oftentimes weddings end up, changing the scope of them and whatnot. What was it for you guys?
So I had seen a traditional wedding performed at a powwow, and that's how they wanted to get married. And It was the traditional way. And I was like, oh my God, I want to get married like this. This is the perfect way. And I was on the POW committee at that time. And it was just like, I was just in awe, and I was so excited to start planning my wedding.
We're just, as we're talking, we're seeing some photos, gorgeous photos. And definitely can see, you've incorporated your culture, and you can see dance. It looks like it's a very important part of your life. Can you talk about how did you incorporate that in the ceremony and the celebrations?
So planning of the wedding was definitely, we had maybe 3 months to plan it. We had spent at most $3,500 on our wedding. And just different community members had pulled together. I had a friend of mine that donated a deer that he had shot for the cost of the dinner. I had another friend that offered to do a pipe ceremony with us the night before our wedding. And just other friends that came and helped set up the tables for our wedding. I had put out a call for hand drummers because that's how I wanted to enter into my wedding, down the aisle. And it was just basically a community wedding where everybody chipped in and helped out.
You have to share with us the night before your wedding, because this is a story that I think everybody, you might not even know you would want this, and then when you hear it, it's like, I would want that. So share with us the night before the ceremony.
So the night before the wedding, I wanted to do a pipe ceremony just so that we can come into our wedding in a good way, unknowing that it was a blood moon. I had no idea that it was a blood moon, and we all sat together, and it was my husband and I, my maid of honor, the best man, and then the pipe carrier with his, at that time, girlfriend. And it was just so, I felt it was the way to come into our wedding in a good way together. Once we were done, we feasted, and then we went back to camp because I decided it was a good idea to camp. And just sitting by the lake, looking at the blood moon was just a gift in itself.
And how many people were out there? That you said there was 4 of you?
At the ceremony, yes, but when we went back to camp, we had about 30 people at our campsite.
I want to ask, so to get back, because I'm sure there's some brides out there thinking, whoa, she did this wedding for how much money? $3,500. You had made the ribbon skirts and the shirts for your wedding party. Tell us a little bit about the reception. Like, did you get some sort of modern flair into the celebration after the ceremony, after the service? Was there, singing, dancing? Was there a DJ?
So our after our wedding ceremony, we had a giveaway just to thank those who came out. And then we played La Halle. We played La Halle as our reception. There was no dance. It was just family members sitting and doing the traditional way of trading gifts or what they've gathered that year as exchange. And then we went into the gambling part of La Halle. And then we were exhausted. It was like really hot that day. So we ended up just going back to camp and enjoying another night of the blood moon. It was just such a gift in itself.
Oh. Well, I just want to, out of curiosity, and maybe if you have some suggestions for future brides, but it sounds like you incorporated a number of different traditional elements that have some meaning in your life. I guess if brides are watching this and maybe aren't necessarily come from a traditional family, but what are some small things that brides and families can incorporate in their weddings to have that traditional element?
I don't know. We barely had the money to do our wedding, and it was just like asking friends and family to help out where they could, and it made it that much easier. Reach out to your friends and family and ask for small things. Like I had a ton of people give me stuff for the giveaway, and friends to come and stand and hand drum us in was a gift in itself. and just the decorations I basically did on my own. But it's just reaching out for that help.
Well,
I think is what's going to save the money.
I have to ask you too. I mean, for a woman who had no interest in getting married, you've been doing it for a couple of years now. How is it?
It's amazing. I basically married my best friend. He supports me 100% in whatever we're doing. We love to hunt and gather, attend powwows, hopefully soon. Stick games, we just match.
Yeah. Well, I think we have some pictures. We've been seeing pictures of your wedding throughout this year, but I think we have some additional pictures. If we can just pull them up, take a look. Hopefully, there's the dress. You made this, right?
I did not make my wedding dress.
You did the bridesmaids?
Yeah. Yeah. I designed my wedding dress, but Sophie White made it.
Gotcha. That's right. Sorry. I mean, this is stunning. Look at that work, hey?
It's just beautiful. I mean, for your wedding dress, did you work with her on the design?
Yes, I did. The design on there is my family. My oldest child is two-spirited, so if you look close enough, the pictograph on there has half man, half woman on it, on one of the children, and it's a replica of my family. I designed it, but Sophie White made it. I actually won it in raffle. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking that in addition to planning a wedding and all the details that go around that, and getting people to come and, whether it's to organize some hand drummers or to donate some deer for the Indian tacos that you guys had, how much time goes into making all of those ribbon shirts and the dresses for the bridal party and the family?
Countless hours. I went to school for fashion, so it's a lot easier for me, but it was a ton of hours that went in to making all those ribbon skirts and shirts. Planning,
I'm assuming, is important, right? Like just having this down to what has to be done month to month. What advice, last word will go to you. What advice do you have for women who are looking right now at the big mountain ahead of them of, I want to get married? Give them some sage advice.
I think it saved us a lot of money getting married on my husband's reserve, because we rented the hall for $75, and that included a kitchen, and it was air conditioned. We actually rented out the Kamasket Park, which was, I think, $75 a night as well, just to ensure that we had that space ourselves. And then just reaching out to family and asking them to donate even a centerpiece or something, or stuff for the giveaway, or help fundraisers.
Love it. Well, Jill, we're glad that you could take the time to share your beautiful day with us and some good tips for future brides-to-be.
Thank you. I enjoyed this.
Wow, $75 for a
for a whole rental.
I know. I wish. Yeah, right?
I know.
That's the way to do it. It's time now for another break, but when we come back, we talk to a moccasin maker who is beautifying wedding feet and keeping the wedding party comfortable at the same time, and sisters who make incredible rings with culture at the root of their creations. Stay with us.
Now.
Welcome back to our special wedding-themed InFocus program. So the special day has arrived. You've got your cake and your dress, but you still need the most important thing, the rings. Well, we've got you covered. Dakota and Jesse Brandt are proud Mohawk Turtle Clan women born and raised in 6 nations of the Grand River Territory. They own and operate Sapling and Flint, a jewelry company specializing in wedding bands. And we actually heard from a bride who got one of them. So I got a chance to speak with them earlier this week. Take a look. Thanks so much, Jesse and Dakota, for joining us today. I'm really excited to chat with you guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So Dakota, I think we'll start with you. Doing the research, this is such a niche business venture. I haven't really seen a lot of other Indigenous folks kind of doing this work. When and how did you folks decide to get in the jewelry and specifically wedding band business?
Well, me and Jessie have both been artists our entire lives. She is a college-trained goldsmith, And so we've been going into silversmithing and metallurgy as a business together, but every so often we were getting that request from people, do you do wedding bands? Can you do wedding bands? Or we want turquoise, we want wampum. And we began to realize that the niche is really there in the market to, for more representation of not just Indigenous made, but also Indigenous representation, because our people love natural stone, they love turquoise, they love wampum, and they love to be able to carry that into their wedding ceremony and into their lives themselves. And we're really just happy to just notice that niche and to be able to fill it for them.
Now, Jessie, as I understand it, you do a lot of the gold work, the forging, all of that kind of stuff. And how did you get into this kind of work?
I am a college-trained jeweler. I studied jewelry arts and design for 3 years in the city of Toronto. So with that, when I came out of there, I was a goldsmith. So my first few years, I was doing silver a lot, as in my community, a lot of our regalia, our people tend to wear silver and wampum jewelry in the northeastern part of North America. So it came natural when, with my skill set as a goldsmith, to start implementing wampum and even turquoise into our work. And yeah, like Dakota said, there were just beginning to be a lot of requests for wedding bands and even anniversary sets. We do promote them as anniversary rings as well. So it kind of came natural to implement wampum into these rings, because that's something that I wear a lot myself, and something that I've studied from my mentors, from elders in the community. There's not a whole lot of people that do wampum work in our community anymore, but it's something that we're trying to thrive to do in our community. It's really important that we implement those things within our designs. Revitalizing those designs and bringing them into the fact that, we are a 21st century people. We love our culture, but we also want to bring our culture into who we are as modern people. And wedding bands is very much one of those things that we're finding more and more young people wanting to incorporate into when they're doing their wedding ceremonies.
Is there any way that you're able to kind of pick up one of those rings and maybe bring it closer to the camera? And maybe if you could talk about some of the meanings behind your designs.
All of these designs are currently available online, but maybe I'll start with the ones that are brand new. This one's a world premiere that are brand new. So we do have these turquoise channel rings available right now, but we're just about to launch them in rose gold. And so we have a couple representations here of our turquoise channel rings. And so the smaller ring itself is it's a 6 millimeter band, 6 millimeters wide, and the larger one is 8 millimeters. And so you have the option on our website. You can buy one, you can buy a set, you can buy them 6 millimeter, you can buy them 8 millimeter, and so currently you can buy them in white and yellow gold. But within the next week, we're going to be introducing the rose gold as well. This is the example of them in with wampum set as well. If you're able to see, then we can share photography as well. But this one has wampum set in. The other pair has turquoise. Here as well, we as Mohawk designers, you can say that a lot of our designs are inspired by our culture. But just in a sense, I want to say that a lot of it is inspired by nature. Like we do have a collection called Garhagon, which represents a lot of, it means in the woods. And we have a lot of different trees and leaves that are implemented in that. But for our wedding anniversary set, we have birch bark ring set here. So it is inspired by birch bark. There's little lines on there, but as well, there's also a statement ring that's a little longer. We call it like our wedding / anniversary collection, because we have a lot of people coming in where they've been married for 30, 40 years and they just want a new clean set, right? And I find that our birch bark statement ring has been very popular as an anniversary gift for wives and partners. And I guess our most significant ring for us culturally is the one we have in the center here, which is our Six Nations Confederacy belt Signet style ring, and it's so it's very popular. It's a Signet ring is the shape is more masculine, so a lot of men like to wear it. It's got that big that heavier feel to it, and definitely for Six Nations people, it's been a more popular piece, especially for anniversaries or even commemorations. Especially we're finding more as an heirloom piece. It's a heavier gold ring, so it's meant to be something that is long lasting, timeless, classic, probably going to pass it down to your children.
the longer birch bark. I noticed that one. I think it's just beautiful. Do you have a lot of pieces here playing on culture and history? Do you guys do custom work as well?
You just have to contact us through our website. It's very we have a bit of a waiting list. It's almost 2 years, our waiting list, if you were to inquire on just because our business is growing and we are diving into wholesale. It is I do custom work. It is a bit of a wait right now. We're trying to build our staff though as well. We have one employee. We're supposed to have working on another one soon. A big part, the wait list is a big part of the reason why we've established a collection like this, so that we're able to still have wedding bands readily available for people that don't want to wait 2 years for them. And so, but yeah, these designs that you see here in front of us, they are available at any time on our website. It just might be a little bit of a wait because it is gold, but we're not talking, we're talking weeks, we're not talking months or years. Yeah. I don't mind to clarify. Yeah. And we do have a wide range of collections too, because like we have the birch bark rings, we also have birch bark stud earrings, pendants, and what we're finding now is that we're having brides come to us asking them to be like wedding party gifts. So you have the bride and the groom have the birch bark ring, but then the bridesmaids are walking away with matching birch bark stud earrings or pendants as gifts to commemorate just being there, being a part of the ceremony.
Wow, so it's really a full circle thing. That's unfortunately all the time that we have today. I really appreciate you coming on and talking and sharing great work. I just in love with what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
For those of you who have Brittany Hobson on your Christmas list, she would like the long birch bark ring. Well, brides, of course, are much less likely to suffer in torturous heels than they were before, but many aren't willing to give up the beauty. Well, meeting them in the middle is Sheila Demares. She makes wedding moccasins and is going to, we got to speak to her last week. Take a look. Sheila, thank you for joining us. Busy times for now for everybody working, and you also do beautiful handiwork. We're looking at some of the moccasins, some of your creations here behind us. How long have you been designing moccasins for?
I've been concentrating and working on moccasins for about 15 years. I've always known how to do beadwork. I learned when I was a young girl with my great-grandmother and my mother.
And what about the moccasin making part of it? I mean, that's a whole other skill set.
Well, yes, exactly. So she taught me. My sister, Helen Pelche, who is a brilliant, she just does all sorts of crafts and that. And she sat me down and she taught me how to make moccasins. And from there, it's grown. It's just become something I do every day. I bead every day. I probably am making a pair of moccasins once a week. And I just really enjoy it.
Therapy a little bit.
It is. Yeah. And I think part of it is like seeing people, their enjoyment when they get them is really important. And I always feel very grateful for the skill set I've learned and the opportunity to help people and share my, what I've learned.
Your gift, yeah. When did you get into weddings? When did this become, people ordering them for weddings?
The first wedding that I worked on was for my niece Olivia, and my sister and I worked together. And that was back in 2013. And it was, I don't know how many pairs we did, 5 or 6 pairs, a pair for her and her flower girl. And from that, people just saw them. And every year it was like, oh, could you do a pair for, would you do my wedding? And it grew. It just, people see them, they want them. And I think it's something personal. From what I've heard from bridesmaids that have gotten them, a lot of brides will give them as gifts to their, and they're like, oh my God, my feet were so comfy all day, because I don't know if you've ever been in a wedding where
I have been in
heels.
So many weddings, you have no idea. As a bridesmaid, as a bride, as a groomsman, I've been in all of the weddings.
So, you know, our feet get tired.
Yes, they sure do.
Yeah, so ladies are so happy to have these moccasins at the end of the day.
And so what's the process that you use for each couple?
Somebody would call and we'd talk and just get to know the person, or usually it's somebody I know, and we talk about just like any wedding, like what colors do you like? What flowers do you like? What time of year is it? How many do you want? What kind of leather do you want? What kind of fur do you want? And we go from there. Because some brides want fully beaded moccasins, and then some want just a white leather. Yeah. So we talk about that, like, you know, so they call me, or if they're in Thunder Bay. I live on Fort William First Nation, so it's just close by, and they used to come and just sit at my kitchen table and have a cup of tea, and let's talk about what would you like.
It's a beautiful part of the world that you're in, Fort William First Nation. I've been there a few times. So is this something that, are you run off your feet busy, or could people get in touch with you and put it in order, or are you too busy to be taking any more orders?
Oh no, I always take orders.
Okay,
always.
I think that's what everybody at home was hoping you would say.
So the best, and it always depends on the size. Like if a bride just wants it, so if they want a fully beaded pair of moccasins, well, that could take like a month to make. There's like a lot of work to it. And because we go, like, I would go over the design, the style, there's a story in them that I put in them. So things mean something to me when I put into them. And, but I've worked on big wedding parties too. So it's been a year in advance.
Wow.
And just to get the materials ready, get all the, cause we need all the sizes for the bridesmaids, their foot sizes, and then I always like to have things done a month before the wedding, because I don't only do wedding moccasins, I do everyday moccasins too.
How do people get in touch with you?
So I have an Instagram page, and it's sheila.quay. They can get in touch with me by my email account, which is sdemera@hotmail.com.
Well, Sheila, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today and for your lovely creations. I know lots of weddings have probably been made a lot prettier with your handiwork.
I'm very grateful and honored when brides ask me to help them out in this little way.
Yeah. Awesome.
Lots of beautiful designs, and I'm fully in support of wearing moccasins on the big day and not heels.
No kidding.
We have to wrap up the show now, but we can't leave you without sharing some of these wedding finds we found on social media, hopefully providing some inspiration for brides-to-be out there.
Okay, so let's start with this custom 3-tiered cake made by Millie's Cakes. This is in Australia. Take a look at that. For an Indigenous wedding, there was a custom order, almost too pretty to eat. What incredible artistry.
Still on cakes, these stunning 3-tier confections are by Valley's Cakes Custom Cakes in Arizona. Some inspiration for you cake makers and brides-to-be out there.
And here, bride Katrina Dooley has a modern bridal gown that's adorned with this beaded belt by Monius Beads. Take a look at that. It's beautiful.
That belt is just stunning. We likely could have done an entire show on beaded wedding jewelry. Check these out by Sweetgrass Crafts. Find her on Instagram. She's based in Alberta.
And a beautiful bride, Shay. I love this gown. Showing off a stunning gown at the Squamish-Lil'wat Cultural Centre in BC. Thanks to Thomas Wagner for that photo. Okay, well, that is a wrap on your wedding show. To wrap up this season of InFocus, thank you to our guests and to our guest host, Brittany Hobson. For co-hosting with me. Britt is actually leaving APTN next week. She's going to join the Canadian Press, so huge loss for us. You will definitely be missed, but I'm happy that you could make one last stop here, and I know you're going to kick a whole bunch of butt over at Canadian Press. And hopefully it's just one stop, and then you're coming back to us.
Yes, I'll be back here. I'll be back on InFocus at some point. Thank you for having me on, and it's been super fun, and I love this wedding theme show, so it was kind of a perfect way to end my time here.
Yeah. Well, you can catch up on reruns of other InFocuses throughout the summer here on APTN, so we'll still be on here on Wednesdays, or check out past episodes on podcasts, aptnews.ca/podcasts. Love ya. See you in the fall.